Man, it couldn't get any more. Hey, what is happening, everybody? Everybody's having a badass end to your week. Happy Sunday. Rolling into happy Monday. So, posted up a video earlier, me running one of those polishers all over little Miss Foxy. That was a real treat. So, just to give you guys a heads up, little bit of a reacquisition here, and I know that a lot of the Mopar guys, at least the ones that I hang out with, lots of guys are really Mopar guys, but they started out as Ford guys. You got your start somewhere else. What's up, Michael? Good evening to you too. You got your start somewhere, and for a lot of us, we didn't have opportunities to even get our hands on something Mopar before Mopar really, I don't know, turned the corner around 2008, 2009 with the Challengers and the SRT variants, the 6.1s and things like that. Codename Scatson, what's up, man? So leading into that, though, you had a lot of Ford guys, and I'm one of them. And so I came to Mopar via Ford, and coincidentally enough, that's the car that I did it with. So that's my first Fox body Mustang, and Mark Corleone said, the car came out nice. I like it. Codename Scatson, Slime Cuda, 2 thumbs up. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, the car still needs a lot of work, though. But, for, camera work, it looks pretty good. But, no, I've got to get a lot more aggressive on the pads, a lot more aggressive on the compound. But that being said, I was able to get a lot out of the car. So, I'm just learning this stuff too. And by the way, I had one Griot's orange pad that I had picked up. And of course, what the super ultra cheap Harbor Freight stuff won't cut and won't cover, that Griot's pad, knocked it out pretty quick. So you're better served, just go to AutoZone or whatever, get the Griot's pads, get the Griot's polished, and you'll be in good shape. It's actually cheaper to buy the more expensive pads because, number one, they last longer, and number two, you're just not on the thing for as long. Now, all that being said, the hood on this thing is pretty jacked. It's gonna probably, it at least needs to be wet sanded, if not reshot, just because the clear, it's an aftermarket hood and the clear is actually starting to come off of it. So, or it's, doing that, not really separate, it's kind of doing that separating thing. Anyway, other than that, it looks pretty good. But yeah, not too shabby. Pretty stoked with it. But anyway, getting back to it, a lot of current Mopar guys, a lot of us came from Fords, and from quite a few Fords, as a matter of fact. So from this Mustang, I went to my 94 Cobra that was a 427 with a T-trim. I went from that to the Vipers, but also during that period of time still had my 88 Coupe, and then I got into the Lightnings and the Shelby Cobras, and basically a lot of Ford powered hot rods with also Mopars scattered in there. I didn't really get into Chevrolet stuff, so mainly because the Ford stuff was just that much easier to work on, but and parts were a lot cheaper. It's just easier. But anyway, everything that I learned, getting back to it, everything that I learned about the math, the camshaft design, camshaft theory, all of that came from just me being curious with this car, and it sparked a curiosity that just snowballed into all kinds of other goofy things. So anyway, it's always kind of cool to say I've still got that car, and there it is right there. So the car had been sitting for a while, and the paint pretty well oxidized, very well jacked up. That is the original paint on the car, so mainly just trying to clean it up, make it look as good as it can for a car that's 30 odd years old at this stage of the game. So at any rate, I'll be getting into some more of the details on it. Shawnee's saying big Stang former owner. Yeah, you are. Mark's saying, Mason and Fox, buddy, how dare you? What would you do if your Hellcat saw you with that? She'd be heartbroken. Actually, the mistress, she cool with it. She cool with it. Let's see. Doc Div saying, absolutely love that Fox. Want one so bad, but put this Big Bang Hellcat cam in it, no doubt, right? Doc Div saying I've got the Chemical Guys full compound and all that stuff. Let me know it makes 1,000% difference, although it's not cheap for sure. I'll have to hit you up on that. Slime Coot is asking, what is a long-term plan for the Fox? So let's get into to tell you what the long-term plan is. I almost have to start you off with what the car used to be. I bought this car years and years and years and years ago, and I bought it with both head gaskets blown. Drove it about 45 miles with the worst. It was blown right in the center of, number 3 and number 5 and number 2 and number 4 were both, the center part was blown out. Anyway, it had GT40 Y heads on it, GT40 intake with a Powerdyne supercharger on it. It's a fun little car, and it ran great, and that's the configuration that it was when I gave it to my dad. Since then, the 302s come out. That's a 351, AFR 185 heads, F-cam 17s, a Lightning lower with a Lightning, well, no, it's the old GT40 upper that I had, but same thing, same one that came on the Lightnings. And that's really about it. It's fully emissions compliant, and that's kind of the funny thing. This car is basically like a what if scenario. Like, what if Ford made a 351 powered 5.0 back in the day, or really be a 351 powered 5.8, but you know what I'm talking about. If they made a 351 powered Fox, what would it be? Basically something like this. And so that's kind of the idea, with just a little bit of a warmed over set of heads and a decent cam, well, at least decent for its time. And it runs good. And the idea, the initial setup of the car, the way it sits right now, was that it was also going to get a T-trim. It's got 64cc chambers on a 351, so compression's not that high, and it might be 9-to-1. The idea was to run about 10-ish pounds of boost with it, with either an S-trim or a T-trim at the time, and it would have made for a really fun car, somewhere around 450, 475 to the rear wheels, conservatively. Plenty of torque, and would have just been a riot. But the thing is it turns out the car is really good naturally aspirated. With the GT40 intake and GT40 lower, although I kid my dad so much about sticking with that intake combination, it does one thing unbelievably well, and that is partial throttle and mid-range power on this thing is really stout. And so it pulls strong to 6,000 RPM, but that's really not its sweet spot. The sweet spot with this car is rolling through the gears at about 3/4 to 80% throttle, and just riding the wave of all that long runner goodness of torque that this thing makes. So it doesn't really care about fuel quality because the compression's kind of low. It's just a lot of fun to drive too. The only thing that would leave you wanting maybe a little bit higher compression, because it is an NA combination. Maybe a set of small chamber 185s would suit it a little bit better. But realistically, I don't know, the car runs really good, and it's a set of heads and an intake away from picking up another 60 horsepower. But to me, I don't know, it kind of takes away from the fun of it. I just got back from playing with it, and keep in mind, I haven't driven this car for a long time. I mean, this is the car, by the way, I used to bracket race. It's kind of funny, I bracket raced a manual transmission car, and people still think I'm nuts for doing it. But anyway, I just got back from driving it, and it's just so much fun to drive. I don't know if there's anything that I would really want to do to the car just yet, but I don't know. Foxy's been a little bit of she's changed her complexion a few times over the years, so who knows? We'll see. And then I'll go through the rest of the build sheet with you too. Shawnee saying, I also own an 89 GT 5-speed, 3180 in street trim, over 1,000 pounds lighter than Big Red. No kidding. Doc Div saying, well worth the money if you don't mind the work. I paid Pops to do mine. I don't blame you for that. It's talking about detailing of the car. Codename Scat asking about the plans for the car. Shawnee's asking, is that an Edelbrock intake? No, that is a GT40 intake. SRT Charger Old Man 2006. Should I put cradle bushings on my 06 Charger SRT white line? Would it help with wheel spin and wheel hop? So a few guys have tried to look into that and see if cradle bushings would even help. I don't know that they would help you, man. I don't know that it would really be worth it. I would say if you want to try to quell that a little bit, get a set of BMR lower control arms, which is actually lower trailing arms. Oh shit! Earthquake! Time out! Time out! Whole rig just crashed. Hang on. There we go. Time out. All right, time in. No, I would say get a set of lower BMR lower trailing arms. I really wouldn't worry so much about the cradle bushings. Revlon does not have the cradle bushings. I don't have any issues with wheel hop or anything like that with that car necessarily. One thing I will say is what will help quell wheel hop more than anything else is correct tire pressure. Check your pressures. If you're running on the street somewhere around 26, 27 is kind of the low range there, you might get an issue with wheel hop. Bump tire pressure up to about 29, 30. That's what I run mine at. I don't really have any issues. And check out my video. I got a couple of acceleration runs with those Nitto Tri-5 R2s, 2Rs. Anyway, I get a little bit dyslexic with the naming of those. Check out that. You'll kind of get an idea for how my car responds and how it accelerates with 30 psi in a car that makes a lot of power. So that's check on that before you start throwing a lot of money around. I think you'll find it'll cure a lot of what you're working out with. Shawnee's saying he must have done a 5-lug conversion and all disc brakes. The Fox Mustangs need more brakes. So if you can see right there, it's got Cobra front brakes, Cobra rear disc brakes. Actually been Cobra converted, and those are actually 94 Cobra if I remember correctly. It's got the longer length rear axles, and it does have the long studs in the rear. And yeah, it is a 5-lug conversion, but it's not the North Race Cars conversion. It's the Cobra conversion, which actually sets the wheels out a little bit wider. Dr. Dib's asking, I was talking about that 5.7 I've got laying around that has the Hellcat cam in it. I'd love to drop it in a Fox. You know the engine oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Speed Freak saying 5-0 on the chat. Oh, he's saying, Dr. Div saying the guy that he got his dyno from was a Fox body guy, all emission vehicles in Cali. He was saying his made 480 to the wheels with a Vortec on it. Was a cool car. Man, I love those Fox bodies. Saying super fun to drive. So yeah, 480 isn't hard to come by nowadays. Back in the day, a really good running Fox body would put down about 4 1/4. That was about the best you could hope for, mainly because, well, cylinder heads kind of sucked. Plus, everybody ran low compression short blocks to get where they were going with that back then. And the intakes, here's the funny thing, the intakes are really more set up to make peak power around 5,000 RPM. That's just how those engines were back then. Sean, thank you very much. Saying a nugget for some hood lifters, stock prop rod has to go. Love them on all my Foxes. So what's funny is that's a Harwood fiberglass hood, and you can see it. It's poking into it's doing the classic, poking into the whole thing. T saying, I'm late, brother, saying, I hope you stroke that 5.0 to the max with a big-ass lumpy cam and a 200, 250 shot. We're not going that crazy with it. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. So getting back into this combination, so taking it from front to back, I just put a new radiator in it. So Fluidine 3-core. It's got a one of the older Blackmagic electric fans, manual switch. Got to remember to hit the switch when you fire it up. 351 AFR 185s, Lightning lower, GT40 upper. It's got a bomb-proof bell housing with a world-class T5, 373s with a truck carrier true track with the Cobra converted axles, Cobra brakes front and rear, F-cam with 1.7s is the cam, and running through shorties with a catted H-pipe. Did I forget anything? I think it's got Dynamax mufflers on it still. So that's pretty much the basic layout of the car. And I can't remember the shifter. I think, if I remember correctly, it's either an MGW or a B&M. It might be a, oh hell, I don't even know it. I don't even want to get me in a line. But the cool thing about this car though is that, oh yeah, and it does, Shawnee spotted it, the 93 Cobra grill. The cool thing about this car though is that it offers up a driving experience that you just really can't get anymore, and that is that it's just a lot of fun to drive. It's real lively. With this engine combination, again, it's not a high horsepower combination, but it's a real high average torque combination. And one of the things that I've always loved about this car is that it never fails to entertain me. So, I mean, like tonight, so wrapping it, coming back home, I was just playing around, hit a turnaround and just hazed it coming out of the turnaround. Nice drift coming out of the turnaround, grabbed third, still matted it, floored it. It just, God, this thing is just so much fun to drive. It's fun to drive in a way that a modern Mustang just isn't as fun. I mean, you figure that, you know, you can, the road feel on something like this, it's just, it's in a different league altogether. You literally feel everything through the steering wheel with these cars. So I get that, you know, the new stuff is fast and whatever, that's all great, but this thing is just, again, it's just so torquey. It's just so much fun. Oh, Shawnee's saying could be a Pro 5.0 lower with the MGW handle. It might be a Pro 5.0. I was into swapping out shifters a lot back then, so there's no telling. Doc Dev's asking, 5-speed car? Yes, world-class T5. Shawnee's saying, what are the tires? Old. They are a set of Kumo tires, but they're kind of older, but they're good. I mean, they hook pretty good. For what it is. Sean's asking, what's the clutch? It's a Cobra clutch. Slime Coot is saying, when's the maiden voyage to the track? That would have been somewhere around 1999. Would have been this car's maiden voyage to the track. For this car to get to the track, I would need to do tires and get a set of drag, at least get a set of drag specific wheels for it. But I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't mind getting her down the track a couple more times though, because I have had so much. So I can't even begin to tell you the stories that I've had with this car over the years. There have been, I mean, lots of street race stories with this thing. Back in the day, this car would have been on welds. It's got, caster camber plates up front with Lakewood adjustable. Are they Lakewoods or Coney's? Coney's in the rear and Lakewood's up front, but the fully adjustable ones. Anyway, and it's on F-springs. But back in the day, this thing was on welds with Lakewood 9010s, and we used to take this thing street racing all the time. And that was back when you know, an 1170, 1150 car was actually a fast car. That was when 11s were fast. This thing at that point in time with the blower in that setup with the F-cam and 1.7s, it's about an 1170, 1160 car, but it would do it all day long on the street. So we would roll out on welds with ET Streets, not ET Street R's, they weren't out yet, the old bias ply ET Streets with bias ply runners, and would give guys fits with that car. It was pretty funny because this car has beaten a lot of cars it shouldn't have. It's lost to, it's won more than its fair share, but it's lost a bunch too, but there's just a bunch of racing over the years. I think the chassis got like 170,000 miles on it, and I would venture a guess and say that half of the miles on this car were either going to racing or coming home from racing. So she's got a lot of history behind her, to say the least. This car also at that point in time had a clone. That clone, where mine was a 302 with a blower, this car's clone was a 347 with a T-trim with a 100 shot on top of that. So that was kind of funny. We would roll up and there'd be a couple of races go down, and I don't know, I guess the guys weren't paying attention, and the guy that had this car's clone ended up kind of banking on a couple of losses I made. So anyway, just, I don't know. I could go on and on and on because there's so many dumb stories that hinge around this car. Doc says, much more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car fast. That is true. Shawnee's asking, did you say your torque boxes were munched? No, but it does have battle boxes. See, there's stuff I'm forgetting. It does have battle boxes installed on it. Casey's saying, surprised you haven't made a video on 11 to 14 Coyotes. As a Fox owner and an S197 owner, I absolutely love the feel of the 11 to 14s. Last hurrah of the muscle Mustangs, in my opinion. Love the new ones, though. It is the last hurrah, and the last of the solid axle cars, and yeah, a lot of guys swear by it. The old Boss 302, awesome car. I mean, there's a lot of that. There's a lot that was lost when the solid axle cars went away, because, I mean, that was the last of the old school style muscle cars. So it is the last hurrah, but, you know, look at it like this. The new stuff is fantastic. And just like with anything, it's going to keep getting more better as time goes by. Well, I struggled through that one. Doc Div saying, need some old Krager wheels on slicks and skinnies. If I do anything, it's going to be on Weld drag stars. Sean saying, you must have trapped between 118 and 120. That is correct. She trapped 119 and 118, pretty much like clockwork. 118 like it was going out of stop. Doc Div saying, how hard is it to get a shot of the engine bay? It's about as easy as doing this, man. Hang on. This is what the 351 looks like after it's been sitting for years and years. But she runs good. Shiniest bit is that fluid on. But there you go. Next will come the beautification phase of this thing. There you go. All right. So getting back to it. All right. George is asking, why is there so much love for the Fox Body Stangs? Are they better than later New Edge? No, they're not. But what I will tell you is this. The reason why there's so much love for them, number one, is because it's so many people's first love. You got to remember that when the Fox Body first came out, it was the epitome of potential. When you bought a Fox platform car, you never bought it because you wanted it to be stock for any real length of time. It was the platform that you would jump off when getting into this car lifestyle. You know, the passion began with the blank canvas that the Fox Body would allow for. And also to this point, and this is the biggest point, they're really easy to work on. You can learn how to work on these cars. That they're very forgiving. Oh, I got something flew in my eyeball. They're very forgiving. They're easy to work on. There's a lot of things about the car that is just really endearing. And if even in stock form, you put a set of Flowmaster mufflers on it, they sound really good. They're very torquey, and they're just fun. It's like you're driving this big puppy around everywhere. It just wants to play no matter what. And so many people just fell in love with it. Well, add to the fact that they're light. They take to modifications like a duck to water. Relatively inexpensive, especially as time went on. And I mean, they make great drag race platforms. So, you know, for all those reasons. So that's why they're just so beloved, is that, and also to that point, it was in many cases the last hurrah. It was the last pushrod V8. Well, I mean, there was the SN95, but this was kind of the last of an era. A lot of guys consider it the last of the era. The lightweight V8, kind of a throwback. Yeah, it's fuel injected, but there was a carbureted version of the Fox bodies early on. And so a lot of guys will say that this is the last of the muscle car as it would have pertained to the original muscle car era. At least it can kind of show its roots to that, even though it came much later. The spirit was in there. And that kind of a weird, ambiguous thing that some guys would try to throw a little bit of, I don't know, pixie dust on them that way. But I've heard that said in several different ways, and so I'll go ahead and say that as well. But for me, it was a great way to get started by learning everything that I learned on this car. I was able to basically laterally take that information and just laterally apply it to all platforms. So, but another big reason why is because it took so well to modifications. The aftermarket is and still is in love with Fox bodies, and hopping them up was inexpensive, and it was the hot rod for every man. And I mean, it was a giant killer. It was, I mean, Fox bodies owned drag strips, autocrosses, road courses. Whatever you wanted your Mustang to do, it would do, and it would do fairly competitively as well. Shawnee's saying, I'm jealous. I would give anything to have one of my 5-liter Foxes back, especially my 93 Cobra. No kidding. Sean had a teal 93 Cobra. It's my favorite color. TU saying 12 to 13 Boss 302 is still the 50 I want. That Roadrunner is crazy strong. Roadrunner, if y'all don't know, was the code name for the Boss 302 50. And yeah, for sure, that's still my favorite newer Mustang. A friend of mine had one. I fell in love with that car. I ended up selling it, which I was kind of bummed out about. But awesome car, and interestingly enough, a lot of that Boss program led into the later generation 50s. So, you know, like the 1550 basically had the Boss cylinder heads, and there's a lot of cool things that came from that engine platform. But yeah, that was a killer car, wasn't it? Love those things. Oh yeah, Diff checking in on the 11 to 14 cars being solid axle. Yep, they're fun, man. Oh, Queasy's saying he's planning on getting 11 to 14. Got the arm flex, I like it. Doc saying I love those old tubular intakes. Absolutely. Shawnee's saying I like those valve covers. Yep. All old school, baby. This, I mean, every part of this build on this car is 15, 16 years old at its youngest. Casey saying, totally agree. I'd love an 18 and up S550, but the mix of the live axle feel as well as how the cabin feels, and to top it off, the looks of the 11 to 14 exterior were great. Absolutely, man. Definitely. Doc Diff saying, Ed Shawnee, jealous of the 93 Cobra for sure. T saying at George, yeah, drive a 93 and SVT and you'll be in love with it for sure. Like they say, low torque V8 snapping you back, dude. They're a lot of fun. They're snappy underfoot, man. They're nice. Sean saying that he had a mint 93 Cobra. Casey saying still dying for a 96 and 98 Cobra. So here's a funny thing about those cars. For me, the 96 to 98 Cobra was the first. How can I put this? In fact, that was right about the time I bought this car. That 96, I can't even think about buying a 96 Cobra. That'd been, lottery money for me back then. The funny thing though is that car with a centrifugal supercharger, the first time I drove a car that was really fast was a 96 Cobra with a, forget the trim that they sold for those cars. Anyway, it was like right after I had bought this thing, I was running a dyno for a shop, and I dynoed that 96 Cobra, and the guy was like, oh yeah, take it for a spin. And I took it for a spin, and that car is pretty damn fast. It's like, oh, that's what 500 horsepower to the rear tires feels like. So, pretty cool stuff. Like I just said, I wouldn't mind an 03 Cobra either. Yep. Doc saying they damn sure don't make them like they used to. Man, I'd love to do something with one just to reminisce. Doc Div saying old school topic, I like it. Yeah, so the thing is when you start getting into the newer stuff, it's great, it's fast, it does all these things, right? But the funny thing about the new cars is that they don't offer up that giddy kind of dumb feeling that you get with one of these cars. The new cars are a little bit too stable, which is good for safety, and it's great if you want to go really fast. But these things are kind of twitchy, and there's nothing that will get your attention like, buzzing along at 85 or 90 miles an hour in one of these and having it trough wander a little bit. It's like, what the hell was that? Anyway, when you learn how to driving one of these things, driving one of the newer cars, how can I put this? It's numb, or at least it's more numb than driving one of these. Because these cars are so lively and they're constantly giving you some kind of feedback, they're a little bit, I don't know, they're a little bit manic, a little bit neurotic with some of the feedback that they'll give you, especially when you're running 17-inch wheels and tires and a little bit stiffer suspension underneath it. So, not to say that it's, not to say that it feels dangerous, but there is certainly a level of connectiveness that maybe goes a little bit overboard with some of the older cars. And that's a weird way to put it, because these things aren't known for handling. They're not known for really doing anything all that well, if I'm being honest. But one thing that they do really well is they put smiles on people's faces. And there's a reason why, gosh, for the better part of 25 years, these things have been the darling of not only the aftermarket, but now, really now folks are trying to scoop these things up as fast as they can. If you find a decent example of these cars, they're kind of hard to come by, and so they're prone to rusting. But the thing is that you got to remember too, just like any old muscle car, the Fox bodies were at one point in time more or less considered to be disposable. They were playthings, and after they'd gotten past their third, fourth, or fifth owner, nobody really wanted anything to do with them anymore. The newer stuff was coming out, and realistically, people had kind of just moved past them unless you were actively racing them. So, I can totally get it. I completely understand it, and a lot of that happened at sometime around 1997. That would have been when the LS variants first started hitting the scene. So, that was kind of the turning point. And, I mean, we all know where the LS platform is these days. But the reality is that, you know, leading up to that, this is what you were going up against. No matter what you had, there was always going to be some 5.0 variant that was going to sneak up and bite you in the ass. So anyway, I've always had a lot of fun with them, and let's see. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. Callus is saying, if you coyote swap into a Fox body, do you have to change the transmission too? I would think that you would. I'm sure there's some kind of bell housing adapter to put a T5 behind pretty much anything under the sun, considering that everybody puts T5s in everything. So yeah, you could probably adapt it, but I would want to have at least some level of upgraded transmission going behind that. Shawnee's saying 96, 98 Cobra with a gear and some mild mods actually ran down my 93 Cobra in a race. I was shocked. I realized the dual head 4 cam 4.6 was decent. 96 and 98 Cobra with a 430 gear is not a car you want to mess with if the guy driving it knows what he's doing. With any series of modifications in a tune, that's a pretty fast car, all things being equal. So yeah, 410s or 430s and those things were pretty nasty. Casey's saying 96 and 98 Cobra and the 0304 Mach 1s prove that 300 horsepower's NAV8s have a feeling that can't be matched. It's a unique charm. Yeah, what's funny is not only is it's a real unique thing because it's 300 horsepower, but typically that 300 horsepower is at a low RPM. And you're starting off with this real high torque number, and that's where guys kind of get it. It's a different driving experience all the way around. Oh, Doc is saying, put it this way, Ram would whoop the crap out of that car. It depends on the venue. But that car is so much more fun to drive. Fast is easy now. It wasn't back then. Well, that's the thing. It's too easy to go too fast nowadays. Look, it wasn't that long ago when 450 horsepower was a shitload of horsepower. I mean, that was eclipsing and this is net horsepower in today's figures, not gross horsepower the way stuff was rated back in the day. And even if you want to pretend like the engines from back then were grossly underrated, which most of them were not, but even when you look at it from that perspective, like the Viper at 450 horsepower, 450 horsepower doesn't even get you in the conversation anymore. So, and we were throwing nitrous on top of that, heads, cam, intake, the rest of it, and just, seeing how fast we could get the things to go 200 miles an hour. And that was considered absolutely bananas, nuts, crazy. Now you can accidentally do that with a 100 shot on a stock Hellcat. Like go into the 200 mile. I mean, it's like, how fast can we get it there? So, yeah, I get it. Anyway, yeah, no, it's just on the topic of how easy is it to go fast now. I mean, look at your truck, for example. I mean, that's a 10-second capable truck, and it weighs 5,500 pounds. I mean, yeah, this is kind of where we're at today. This over excessive amount of power. But for me, I like having fun too. I mean, I like going fast, don't get me wrong, but I like having fun. And this thing, like I say, I drove it tonight, had an absolute ball with the thing, and, I put this dumb looking grin on my face that you just can't replicate with some of the newer cars. This thing is a lot of fun getting you to the speed limit, okay? It's rowdy getting you to 75, right? Whereas the newer cars are, I mean, you have to go 75 and then you can start having fun with them. So, let's see, Doc saying, too easy to get loose because that car will do it now, but just long enough for you to get straight and feel the acceleration. Yeah, this thing, like I said, having a little bit too much fun with it tonight. Shawnee's saying, considering how great the sales of the Fox Mustang were, it's a little sad how hard it is to see one on a daily basis anymore. It makes you realize we're not getting any younger. Yeah, so one of the problems, and this, again, it goes back to the fact that these cars, just the way that muscle cars were back in the day, these cars were considered to be disposable. I mean, you're lucky to find one that doesn't have a bunch of rust. You're lucky to find one that doesn't need some amount of body work in general. You're real lucky to find one that hasn't been wrecked. And again, it's the same problems that, well, muscle cars had from the mid to late 60s and early 70s. I mean, they were run hard and put up wet and traded hands fairly regularly. And by the time those cars get to be about 10 or 15 years old, you probably don't really want them. I mean, you've got every bushing's going to have to be replaced. Everything on the car, aside from the body, is probably going to have to be replaced. And again, the build quality wasn't that great, so lots of rust, lots of issues there. So anyway, you kind of get where I'm going with that. TU's asking, B, did you see Racer X's diff brace and the diff leak issues from his video today? If so, what are your thoughts on a fix? Yeah, actually, I had talked to him about that on the phone a little bit ago. So what has probably happened is it may have just either cracked or stripped at those stabilizers, and the fix is going to be probably a new diff, unfortunately. So, but the good thing is that those diffs aren't really that hard to come by, and they're not super expensive. So, and they're fairly easy to install. But yeah, I did see it, and at the power level he's at, there isn't really a fix that doesn't include a new diff. I wouldn't even try to repair it. Crack the case, gut it, have yourself some new fun paperweights, and go on from there. Doc Div saying, yep, right up to the LS platform, those cars dominated the streets. Definitely a good one to have. Yeah, buddy. Cody's checking in and saying, would love for them to bring back the Fox body with the same look, just update it more and slap a Gen 3 Coyote in it. Me and you both, man. Oh, T's saying at Casey's, I feel the same way about the feeling you get from the bone stock 98 to 02 WS6s. Those were kick-ass cars, man. Good reference, my man. TU for the win on that one. WS6, I remember those so well. Oh man, love it. Doctor saying, nope, that's still bananas nuts crazy. Hell yeah. He's saying too fast for me. Shawnee's asking, what do you think the Big Red would do on the top end? 309 gear with 9% lower street trim. Could it still scare 200? Oh yeah, easily. Yeah, that's actually not that far from the Texas Mile 200 mile an hour combination. So, which is basically Racer X's combination. Except that car was a manual and he put a 262 rear end in it. 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. It made it easier to get it out of the hole though. But yeah, it would still get, I mean, you stretch it out, it would still do 200. Casey's saying, at 2, yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I didn't mean to leave anyone the LT1, or leave out any of the LT1 and then later LS1F bodies. Those were fun cars. Casey's saying, that hood is still by far one of the top 3 hoods. I hear that, man. It's a good looking car. Anthony's checking in and saying, I miss the feel of my 5.0. I'm in Minnesota and you don't see as many because, like B said, they were a dime a dozen. Parts were endless and man, were they fun to drive. Yeah, they were. A little bit too fun to drive. Cody's asking, what are your thoughts on the Corolla XRS? I don't really have any. I'm not familiar with it. Lee's saying, wait, what? Fox body in the house? Yeah, it is. Dean Hunter saying, hey, B Mason, what's up, D? So I'm trying to see what am I missing. So because Sean's actually reminded me of a couple of things coming into this. So yes, the battle boxes are in. Bomb-proof bell housing, Cobra clutch, aluminum drive shaft. Forgot that one. Aluminum drive shaft from I have no idea who. Went over the truck carrier 373s, long studs, Cobra conversion, 94. I think it's 94, 95 Cobra front brakes. It's got 94, 95 Cobra front spindles on it. What else? Yeah, GT40 upper and lower with the AFR 185s and, you know, low compression 351. So that is what we are rocking, and a world-class T5. Lee's saying, I had 3 of them back in the day. Lots of fun, but I don't know if I could go back. Talk to him saying, supercharger or turbo? Nah, already done that. The original setup was for a T-trim though, or at least an S-trim, and it would have been fairly healthy. It would have been probably it would have been about the same power as the 302 at about 4.25 horse, but it just would have made more torque. It'd probably been 4.25, 440-ish torque. No, probably more than that. Probably would have been 4.25, 460 torque to the rear wheels. Is about what it would have made. Let's see. Sean's asking, did you remove the weight on the rear end that was supposed to dampen the vibration? This one doesn't have that. So what he's referring to is there was this block of metal. It's got a different pinion snubber in it also. It might be a BMR pinion snubber. Anyway, there was this block of metal that they put on the rear end. It was supposed to quell vibration or something like that. I'm still trying to figure out what it was there for. Anyway, no, it's not there anymore. That's one of the first things we took off of these cars. By the way, yes, I have bled all over this thing, without a doubt. Like you would not believe. So I'm trying to think of what all else has been done. Yeah, the new Fluidine radiator is the 3-core, which is what came out of it. By the way, the radiator that it had was the 3-core Fluidine. In fact, this is the old plaque off of that radiator. Back then, you got this really cool aluminum plaque that they riveted onto the top of the radiator. Nowadays, it's just some sticker. They're not as cool as they used to be. And that radiator, let me think about this. That radiator had to have been 15, 16 years old, give or take. Oh, one other thing. How am I possibly forgetting? Yes, this does have the tweaker on it, the Calcon CalEdit A9L tuning device for the computer. So this is the car that I originally learned how to start manipulating computer stuff to tune these cars, or to tune anything for that matter. I've got to get a hold of them because the computer that I have that has the Calcon and CalEdit software on it completely crashed, dead. And I've got to figure out how to load it using Windows 10, and I am terrible at that kind of stuff. So anyway, I may do some tutorials with Calcon CalEdit. It's been, though, here's the problem. It's been about 10 years. No, hell, longer than that. Damn. It's been about 12 years since I've even messed with it. So last time I even touched it, I was living in California. So yeah, I'm trying to give myself a timeline here. Let's see. Sean's asking 28 spline or 31 spline. It is a 31 spline using the 31 spline truck carrier. Let's see. Cody's asking, what was the difference between the 0347 intake manifold and the 070847 intake manifold? A lot of 47 owners do this, so was wondering what was all the hype about. I think, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of changes with the intake manifold where the casting, the way that they do the polymer, the casting was different. God, man, it's going back a while. I can't exactly remember because we didn't mess with too many 47s. But I think that the casting is better, and I think the runners might be different. It might have been a revamp of that thing. Damn, what was the difference? I know I've only heard about it in passing, and we really didn't ever mess with too many 47s, man. Wish I had more info for you, but I just don't. Typically, if memory serves me correctly. Hell, now don't get me to lying, because now I may be getting that one confused. I'm sorry, yeah, I'm getting that one confused with the LS intakes. The LS intakes, that's actually one of the reasons why people started porting the polymer intake manifolds, is because the LS2, the 6-liter intakes, were so bad. They had so much casting flash in them. You could go in, carve out the casting flash, and basically just, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's the same thing I did at Shalandra's intake, just blueprint that intake, and you'd pick up like 9, 10, sometimes 12 horsepower, depending on how bad it was. That's exactly what I was thinking of. So yeah, I'm off on the 4.7, brother. That is a Mercedes engine too, by the way. Doc's saying, it needs a turbo or supercharged. It's respectable quick these days, and just to drive, it would be a fun car. It's cheap to do because of its age. Doc Dib saying, is it SCT software? No, it is Calcon Cal Edit. And no, I don't think I'm going to go supercharger with it. I mean, if I want to go fast, I've got a Hellcat that does pretty good with that. So, again, I'm more into having fun. And that's actually the funny thing, is that the car was set up specifically to have a supercharger on it, and after the 351 went in it was kind of deemed unnecessary. Not to mention sketchy. If you've ever run Foxes on the street making more than about 400 horsepower and about 400 pound-feet of torque, unless you're on a tire, they get a little tail happy, and although that can be somewhat fun, they can also get a little bit sketchy. So that's when it was basically the edict was set, and no longer was it going to be a boosted car, although it does still have the gauges in the car, which I think is fine. Yeah, it's not SCT, by the way. Yeah, Calcon and Cal Edit are the two programs that you use. Casey saying, have you ever driven a C4 ZR1? No, but I did own a C4, but not a ZR1. Said, marvel of engineering at the time. In reality, the engine tech is still quite modern. Yeah, it's, you know, great car. I've known guys that have had them. In fact, this is kind of cool. When I lived in NorCal, I had a storage unit and for work. And my next door neighbor, the lady that had that storage unit, she kept a teal ZL1 in that storage unit, and on pretty days she would run by the storage unit, grab the vet, throw her SUV in the storage unit, and would take the vet out for the day. So pretty cool. But yeah, I never got the chance to drive one, but they are very cool cars. Cody's saying, it's all good. Wanted to hold off on the supercharger as much as I can, but I just like the power I can make since it weighs almost 6,000 pounds, for sure. Race gas smells good. I love it. Saying, AB, love the Fox body. I have a 92 SSP coupe that used to have a 347 Strucker combo with a Vortec V3 SI. I built it in Mustang and Fast Forwards. It was called Smog Legal Killer. Awesome car. I also had a 92 SSP. Had a lot of fun with that car, man. It's just one of these things. The Fox body Mustang, if you just don't know, they're so endearing and they're so much fun. And like I say, they're fun at every power level, and you can just do anything you want with these things. Again, autocross, drag race, street stuff. It just doesn't matter. You can get away with it with these cars. And you don't have to throw a ton of money at them, and they don't have to make a ton of power to be fun because they don't weigh anything. But yeah, awesome car, man. I love that race gas. That's cool. Because I had one too. Shawnee's saying, I had an 82 50 Capri. Yes. 2,900 pounds, fun as heck. Reagan was president. I was 20, ran great. I like it. T saying, B, personally, I would really like to see a nice 125, 150 shot setup and a tutorial video on the spray setup. Most of us would absolutely love that. I like the idea of that. I might just do that. You know, a small dry shot on this thing could be a lot of fun. Just set it up on a window switch, do a 3 to 5,500 RPM setup, and yeah, I may look into that. It's a good suggestion. Actually, I would do a wet shot, run the fuel solenoid off of the Schrader. Should be able to do that. Just do a real old school setup. Be a lot of fun. Oh, Race Guy saying his made 610 and 595 at the wheels, smog legal. A bunch of my stories are still up online if you Google it. Pulled up that motor setup and pulled that motor setup and miss it. Yeah, I miss mine. The supercharged setup on this thing quite a bit. Wasn't quite that powerful, but it was just real punchy, real torquey, and that led into the 427. Kuntz & Company 427 T-trim setup that I had in my 94 Cobra, which was pretty nasty. That was about 650 and 650, and it was absolutely a monster for its day back in the day. And it would do rolling burnouts in fourth gear. Just roll into the throttle and it'd light the tires up. Pretty fun. Cody's saying, I don't think you're around. I don't think I was around when you said it, but what are your plans again for the Fox body? Well, the plan is, number one, cosmetic, just to get her back looking good. Excuse me. And from there, I don't know. It's a lot of fun the way that it sits. I want to get it, get it back to looking good. I've got to figure out how to load CalEdit on this new computer. So Tweaker, dude, call me back, will you? I've only bought like freaking 7 of those controllers over the years. But aside from that, I'm going to relocate the computer underneath the seat. I'm going to do a couple of other things with the car too, but and I don't know, man, not a lot. Here's the thing. I've got to the point where fun is a lot more important to me than fast, and reliability and emissions compliance and all that kind of stuff is something that I really like, and that's something that I love about this car. It has all of the emission systems in play. It's even got the throttle body heater thing. I still don't even know what the hell, the EGR heater is still in play with this car. It's got the smog pump. It's got catalytic converters. Basically, you can take this thing and pass a sniffer test if it still had to pass a sniffer, because it doesn't anymore. It's too old. But that's kind of what I like about these things, is having something that's fun that I don't have to worry about, but just puts a stupid, dumb-looking smile on my face. But I don't know what I want to do with it. I really don't. Right now, I just want to have fun with it, drive it, and see what kind of dumb shittery I can get away with it. I mean, because to me, guys, you have to remember something. This is the car that I had when I was a kid. So, I get behind the wheel of this thing, and all of a sudden, I'm a much, well, I wouldn't say much dumber version of myself, because it doesn't get much dumber than I am now. But I'm kind of there again, So, I mean, that's another fun part of this car, is that it makes I don't know. It just puts a big stupid grin on my face. It makes me feel like a kid again. All right, guys. Shawnee is checking out, saying good night, B. Good night, everybody. I can talk foxes all night. See you later. See you, buddy. Race guy saying, funny you have a Fox. I have one and love it, but I want a Hellcat Charger too. Same as you. Well, I've got a Challenger, but they're awesome either way you look at it. Casey's saying, scratch a 96, 98 Cobra. I need a 95 GTS now that I think about it. Yeah, no shit. Actually, I had a 96 GTS at one point. Cool car. But yeah, 94, 95 would be awesome. Casey's saying that's something. I can't read it. No, Race Gas smells good, saying 427 and a T-trim. Dang, yeah. So, yeah, that thing was really, really stupid. Yeah, good times. Had a Super Victor Spider. With the elbow, 90mm throttle body. Actually, what's funny about that car is it went through a lot of different changes as well. It had a Super Victor Spider. What's funny, okay, you're gonna love this. Because I could, I got bored one night at the shop and put an intake setup very similar to this car on it. It was a Lightning lower that was ported. This one's not ported. It was a Lightning lower that was ported with a GT40 upper on it. And I drove it around like that for a while. And the funny thing is, with the intake manifold in that configuration, it bent and or broke more parts. And it was pissed off all the time. It was like torque, all like now. Killed the RPM, but I mean the torque on that thing with that setup was just nuts. So, but yeah, it regularly bend the output shaft, the splines on the output shaft on a TKO. It didn't strip it. It made it to where you literally couldn't separate the yoke from the output shaft. I had that thing. I had like 2 of them that I had forever, and I know it did it twice. May have done it a 3rd time. And the last time it did it, that's right before I sold the car. I got so pissed. I was so annoyed with that car after a while. Callus asking, if you could go back in time and race on the show Pinks, would you use your Fox body or the Hellcat? I would use a Hellcat because I can probably sandbag the Hellcat better than I could the Fox body. I mean, I would just run them in 500 horse mode all night. And then, anyway. Cody's saying, I like that route. Wish I thought of that, but it happens when you're young. Yeah, when you're young and you do a lot of dumb stuff. Race guys say, yeah, sorry, knew you had a Challenger 392. And my Hellcat's also a Challenger. But the Ford and the Mopar mix, yeah, they do. You know what's funny? Power to weight wise, this car feels a lot like driving a 6-speed 392 Challenger. The power delivery is very similar in that it's torquey. It's got a lot of tip-in torque. You don't get the idea or the sensation or the impression that it's going to rev to, 7,000 RPM. It's just not happening with the setup. But it's very similar to it, just in like the power delivery, I guess. Cody's asking, I've been wanting this for a long time, since the beginning of the Hellcat Chargers and Challengers. Why is the Charger faster than the Challenger? Aerodynamics. The Charger has a lower coefficient of drag, and so it can pull a little bit higher top speed. It's like a 2 mile an hour difference or a 1.5 mile an hour difference up top. Both cars will actually do, depending on atmospheric conditions, they'll both get real close or will run 200 miles an hour. But in equal conditions, the Charger will be able to pull a slightly higher mile an hour. And again, it's just because of the coefficient of drag. Race Gas is saying, what you said about fun more than fast, reliable, less hassle is why I'm coyote swapping my SSP coupe now. Good call on that. Just going with a mild Gen 2 Coyote with bolt-ons, E85 and L&M intake only, Cam. Simple. It's going to be fast too. Yep. It'll be a good running car. It'll be a lot of fun. I thought about doing a Coyote swap on this thing, but I just really like the 351 in it. Plus, it's old school Windsor, and I just like that. Maybe I'm, getting a little bit nostalgic with it, but realistically, it just seems like, for me and this car, just because of my history with it, it'll stay a Windsor. And to that point, this whole setup has hardly any miles on it. I mean, it wasn't anybody's daily driver. And it's, with as old as the setup is, it's maybe got, my dad and I were talking about this, it might have 20,000 miles on it, and that's being very liberal with the mileage. Let's see. Risk is saying, wait, I think you sold the 392 for the Hellcat. Yes, I did. That 392 build was great. So much tweaking, so many things, maximizing power, minimal coin. I love it. It's because of this car that I was doing so much of that. This car and the Lightnings that I've played with over the years. The funny thing is, it's a, going back to the 392, the 392 was a lot of fun because it was fast enough to keep you entertained, and it was as fast on the street as it was on the track. And that's, I guess, saying something like there's a yin to the yang there. If I had any complaint about the Hellcat just in general, it's that even on a tire, it's difficult to get that car to hook on the street. Whereas the 392, on a good drag radial, like a fresher drag radial, it will hook pretty well on the street. And that's kind of how this car is too. It just, there's no overabundance of power. I'm not going to say that it's well balanced, but it kind of is in a way. And again, in that one area where that partial throttle wave of torque that this thing will deliver, it's really hard to get that sensation out of anything other than some of these pushrod, these more modern pushrod V8s, namely the 392 and that Challenger, just again in how that car delivers power. So obviously this engine setup is nowhere near that 392 in terms of outright power, but again, when you don't have to move that much weight, that sensation is still kind of there. Actually, this is probably maybe a little bit quicker than the last 5-speed car I drove. Oh, I'm sorry, 6-speed car I drove. With this one, again, just having a better power to weight ratio. Casey's saying the aero and a little bit of weight sends that Charger barreling forward. Cody's saying, with the Trackhawk, I feel aerodynamics don't exist because aerodynamics of a brick and weight equal to mobile home should not be moving that fast. No kidding, right? Hey, truth, that same thing can be said of the Durango. But yeah, no, man. I will say this, that the Trackhawk is definitely a horse of a different color. That thing, if you've never seen one in person launch, it's pretty creepy to see something that big move that fast. I get it a lot. There's a lot of really fast diesel trucks out there and all that, but those are really few and far between. There's a lot of Trackhawks that show up to the drag strip these days, and to see one of those things move out is something to behold. Race Guy's saying, yeah, the Coyotes lack character compared to the small blocks, definitely. Funny thing is, now that I'm almost done swapping the Coyote, I already missed the small block. Dope, maybe I'll build another one. Yeah, it has that nostalgic feel to it. It's got that old school vibe that the new stuff just isn't going to give you. And yeah, the problem with better is that better wins the argument every time, right? I mean, you can't be the best if better shows up to the party, right? So, you know, that whole thing, good, better, best, it never made any sense to me, because it should be good, better. I don't know, best, you know, anyway. Completely going off the rails on that train of thought. But the thing is that, yeah, it's better, it's more efficient. I always did understand that, and I got it, trust me. But I don't know, man. I just always liked just the driving experience of the 2-valve engines in these things. They say Fox with a small block now. Have both worlds. They're so different. The motors, their character, the power band, sounds, everything. Yeah, they're so different. So different, and I mean, you can't compete with the Coyotes with a small block. I mean, I guess you can, but not. And you can make, even if you made more power with a small block, you're never going to compete with a Coyote from a durability standpoint. So, yeah. I tell you what, a nasty setup is insert Coyote into Fox body and then set that thing loose on any closed circuit environment. That thing is going to do so well. It's not even funny. So I'm curious, saying you recently bought a 240Z with twin turbo, small block Chevy. My second car was a 240 like 30 years ago, and always wanted to put a V8 in one. Such a nostalgic feeling to get a car you had as a kid, although this one is scary fast. I bet it is. 240s are sweet cars too. Real hard to find. That's another one where, I mean, damn, you have rust issues like you wouldn't believe. Cody's saying, why does the 5.7 Grand Cherokee have so many issues? They use the same engine, but from little experience with them, the engine alone has a list of problems. You know, I don't know why any of these runs of engines may typically have issues. I don't know if the people that are buying them just aren't taking care of them. I have no clue, because they're all coming off the exact same assembly line. The only issues that I can think of that would be somewhat traceable would be bad lifters, but really couldn't tell you, man. The other issue that, you know, manifold bolts, something like that, but again, they're all coming off the same assembly lines. The thing is that the issues with the lifters have not gone away completely, but they've definitely subsided substantially. And I haven't heard of any. I haven't heard of that many in some of the later cars, so, or trucks for that matter. And none of our fleet trucks have them. And it's funny, I was talking to my brother-in-law today. We were talking about the Dodges, and, you know, people were having problems with Dodges, you know, in 2014, maybe a little bit in 2015. And all of our fleet is Dodge, well, Ram trucks. They're all quad cab, they're all tradesmen, they're all Hemi, and most of them, they're all 2017s now, by the way. And we have one guy that's already turned his in to get a new one, and it had 270,000 miles on it. Never had a problem with it. And that's about the mileage that we turn in our vehicles, is right around 250,000 miles. We'll start to collect paperwork and get everything ready, and then at around 270, they get jettisoned, and we just go pick up the new one from the dealership. So I don't know. You know, like I say, we've got 45 of those things in the fleet, or close to it. Maybe it's 40. Let's say we have 40 of them in the fleet. Nobody's had any problems with their trucks. So go figure. Race Gas is checking out. Saying, good talking with you, B. Love the channel. Thank you very much. Good catching up with you. Absolutely, man. Thanks for hanging out. Looking forward to seeing more Fox content. Have a good night. You do the same. Cody saying, I hear so many horror stories about them, but it's like it's a 5.7. Those things can take abuse like a champ. I do feel like it's more the owner than anything else because Dodge at least is pretty darn stout. Man, you know how this is. Okay? If you work at a shop, you see the problems that never ever happen. When you work at a shop, the stuff that rarely happens about once every 2 weeks. You know, you only see the failures, right? So I'll tell you this. A lot of it has to do with maintenance. But the thing is that I've seen LS's fail. I've seen Coyotes fail. Toyotas fail. But oddly enough, if you're taking care of them, they don't seem to fail as often. So maybe it is more driver-centric, maybe, or owner-centric. In terms of where those problems are coming from, I can't really speak on that. But again, like I say, and to the point though, the point that I was making about the fleet trucks, those trucks are impeccably maintained by most of us. In fact, it doesn't cost us anything to have the oil change. It doesn't cost us anything to have any of the fluids changed or anything like that. It's just general maintenance on that vehicle, and you know, we knock it out fairly regularly. Maybe if we didn't maintain them as well, they'd have more problems, but that would be true of any vehicle, right? That'd be true of any make. So I guess what I'm saying here is, you know, if you're not maintaining the vehicle, it's going to fail on you, no doubt about it. Some for our guys saying, did you see the 2020 Raptor getting the GT500 engine now? Saying LOL TRX. Look, I put a video together, actually technically too, but the video that stuck, I've got some weird thoughts about the TRX, and part of it is, well, it's for me, it's how the vehicle was marketed and how it was brought to the public. You know, it's Dodge chasing the Raptor around, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me from a marketing, but really more from a legacy standpoint. You know, the history of Dodge was making hot rod pickup trucks. I'll walk you through it. So you had the Warlock, you had the Little Red Express, you had the Shelby Dakota, and in getting into the Jeeps, you had the 4-liter Comanches. They had this history of hot rod trucks. And then Ford, and they kind of got out of that, and then Ford came out with the Lightning, and that's kind of stepping on Dodge's toes a little bit, kind of going into their backyard, even though Dodge really hadn't been in that game, but they kind of had been, but not really for a while. So Dodge releases the Viper truck. In other words, you got into my backyard, we'll come after you and kick your ass. Well, instead of making another hot rod truck, they went after the Raptor segment, which I guess that truck sells well enough, and they wanted to put something together that would kick its ass. The problem is, they showed up with a Hellcat engine when they have red-eye engines sitting right there. I mean, they probably stepped over them to get to a Hellcat engine and put in that truck. So, you know what, GT500 motor comes out in the Raptor, then Ram releases the red-eye truck, and then it's, you know, I don't know. It's kind of one of those I know you are, but what am I type things. But anyway, I just found it a little bit curious. Anyway, getting the marketing of it. Just if you want to laugh, just check out that video, because I go on I don't even know how many minute-long rant about the marketing and the presentation of that truck, and the fact that it just, here we go, another Hellcat powered contraption that nobody can really afford, and they didn't. And then there's the grow within the brand thing. Anyway, check it out, you'll love it. Let's see. King's Eye saying, what's up, you Mason? What's up, man? Sam Gravel saying 7.3 in a Fox body. I have to pass on that. Pretty funny though. Cody's saying, I was thinking of a 5.7 Grand Cherokee because I can't afford the payments and insurance for the SRT and Trackhawk. It kind of puts me at ease that it is mostly the owner. I do have a soft spot for the 5.7 Hemis. So yeah, I just don't, like I say, they're all coming from the same motor pool. It's not like one is arguably different than the next. You know, if it's the truck spec engine, it's coming out of those engines. If it's the car spec engine, it's coming out of that batch. So yeah, there's not that big of a difference. Sam's asking, what year is that beauty behind you? It is an 89. Kizo saying, what would really be great is a red-eye Magnum. Oh yeah, I would agree with that 100%. It'd be cool if they would bring something like that back. Man, I am kind of secretly wagon guy at heart, and I love that kind of stuff. The fast SUV thing is kind of cool, but there's nothing cooler. If there's anything cooler than a fast SUV, it's a fast wagon. And I feel like the landscape is a little bit less better with the loss of the Magnum. But here's the thing, though. I mean, when I was talking to the guy at Mecum, the marketing guy for FCA at Mecum, that's one of the cars that we spoke on specifically was, this is a marketing for FCA Dodge brand. We talked about the Magnum, and it's like, well, what happened with that? And he basically said nobody bought the thing. I mean, it was not a viable product for them to make, and so it got the axe. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to retrofit a front end of one of the newer Chargers onto a Magnum, and you know, repower it with a Hellcat platform. That would be stupid sick to me, but anyway, you know, that would take lottery winning type money, and I just don't have that kind of money. So, but yeah, I'm with you on that. Would have made for a really cool car. He's not saying bring back the Magnum. Man, if enough people would buy it, they would. Cody's saying what I'm disappointed in is the gears they put in with the 5.7 because they have so much potential. Dodge is like, nah, Hellcat engine is the go-to engine. Yeah. And to that point, part of the rant that I went on, if you saw it, you'll kind of know where I'm going with this, but part of the rant that I went on with this TRX was the fact that the only engines that are available for the truck, the 1500, is the 5.7, not the only V8 that's available is the 5.7 and the 6-cylinder. There's this 6.4 just kind of sitting there waiting to get thrown into that truck, and the Hellcat engine. Like, why wasn't that done a long time ago? They made the RT pickup truck, so they kind of already did it. They just did it with the 5.7. It's a cool truck, and I love those trucks. They're a lot of fun to drive. But could you imagine an offering alongside the 5.7 with a 6.4? That's kind of Dodge's MO when it comes to trucks anyway. Dodge always built a hot rod pickup truck of some kind. And if nothing else, their trucks are always just fun to drive. I guess the point that I'm getting at is, yeah, once again, the NA guy gets overlooked, and that's a bit of a bummer. So, King's Eye saying, or the Red Eye 300. Yeah, I'll take a Hellcat 300 real quick. I'd like to have the 6.4 300 here in the States. They've got it in Australia. They've got it in the UAE, but we just don't have it here. Cody's saying, B. Mason for Dodge marketing team so he can bring back the SRT4. That would actually be a program that I would champion. Mainly because it would offer up a performance product that would also do well with fuel economy standards. Greasy's saying, I'll grow with Dodge when they make their products pocket friendly. I'm right there with you, man. I'm living that right now. Sam saying, I think it would have been better if TRX was a 2500, maybe with a long bed, a real sleeper. You know, so Dodge had kind of brought out the Power Wagon if you want to call it down. I mean, you can see that 4x4 with the 6.4 and it's a 2500. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't know, man. I'm just so on the fence with some of the stuff Dodge is doing right now. Diagas is saying, what up, B? In your opinion, should I keep my 12 RT stock and put a pedal commander, or get a custom remote tune from Jay Green or Hemi Fever? I only have K&N intake. Okay, so to answer that question, first of all, what's your budget? Because a pedal commander, I don't even know what the pedal commanders cost anymore, but I can tell you that they're a lot cheaper than getting a tune. And more to the point, you can install it yourself. You can uninstall it yourself as well. And you're going to get a lot of the same benefit out of that pedal commander that you would get with the tune, except you just don't get the extra power. You get the throttle response, it's snappier. But one thing, you can do the pedal commander alongside the tune as well. So my suggestion would be, grab you a pedal commander, put it on the car. You can still use the pedal commander even if you get a tune for your vehicle. But the thing is that you may put that pedal commander on your vehicle and find out, man, I just kind of like having more throttle response. The power, 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. And aside from transmission tuning, which is really where the performance comes when you're talking about tuning one of these vehicles anyway, man, it might end up being kind of something that you might just not have to worry about a tune if you get a pedal commander. I put pedal commanders on quite a few cars, and I've always had good results with them. I really like them. So, you know, either way you go, you can still run a pedal commander. And here's the cool thing: pedal commander is not VIN locked. Pedal commander just installs or can be taken off whenever you want, which means you can sell it whenever you sell your car, or if you just get bored with it, or you want to do something different. You can still sell it. Get you a chunk of your money back. Pedal commander's got a lot of upside, man. Pedal commander, a lot of people are like, about pedal commander, but I'm telling you, as somebody who has used them and played with them and have had fun with them and have, dialed them all the way down, like chilled them totally out on long trips and, made them a little bit more aggressive so I can just, have a little bit more aggressive feel underfoot. It's one of those things where don't knock until you try it. They actually work, and they work pretty well. They're a neat thing. Cody's saying, I feel Dodge is trying to prep the Ram for the Elephant engine. I don't think Elephant can make it past EPA. I just don't think it's going to happen. Sam's bringing up, this is something near and dear to me, saying they think, he says that he thinks they need to bring back the Ram Charger and offer it with the 6.2, the 6.7 diesel, and the 5.7. I'll tell you what, I'll take that a step farther. A Ram Charger, they're talking about that inline 6-cylinder turbo engine there for a while. Might be a good platform to kick it off in. But either way, no, I agree with you. Full-size Ram Charger would be really cool. Mr. Blacktop saying, AB Mason, good to see you as always. Got the fist bump. I like it. Saying, so I guess we are Hellcatting all FCA vehicles. Going back to my question last week, when is FCA going to make something that people can actually afford? I gotta tell you, it's hard to answer that question because unfortunately people can afford the hell contraptions that they're throwing out into the world. It's just that a lot of normal folks can't afford it. And again, it's kind of crappy to keep looking up at Hellcats, but have nothing for the folks that are trying to fly the flag that just don't want to spend that kind of money or can't. There's some people that have plenty of money that are just opposed to dropping that kind of coin on a car. Makes sense to me. So, yeah, I don't know. And the interesting thing about it is, again, it falls in lockstep with that, opinion, the rant, the whatever that I was leading into with that TRX is that, once again, we're being marketed towards and we're being sold a lifestyle a la Harley Davidson. This is very much along that business model, or at least it feels like it is to me, because you know, you walk into a Harley Davidson dealership and there's motorcycles on one side of the building, and then the rest of the building is dedicated to Harley Davidson apparel, you know, lifestyle stuff, which is great. I mean, if you're into that, yeah, Harleys are cool. I like Harleys. Ergonomically, some of the nicest bikes out there. But there's the jacket, the hat, the shirt, the shoes, the socks, the boots, the this, the that, the whatever. And it's, you know, you'll end up kitting out, you know, half again the kind of money you'll spend on the bike just walking out of the place with all the crap you're going to buy. That's kind of where I feel that Dodge, FCA, what have you, is taking some of this. And again, it's Hellcat this, Hellcat that. Look, golden era. Look, Dodge had the you know, the balls to put Hellcat engines in everything. Well, yeah, maybe, but the problem is that you got to paper up like crazy to be able to afford it. And by the way, $1 just doesn't go near as far as it used to, in that the buying power, even of an inflation adjusted dollar, doesn't buy as much as it used to. These things are expensive. They eat up a lot more of the average person's annual income to be able to afford. Therefore, yeah, it's hard to justify spending that much money on something that's a depreciating asset, which is really not an asset if you think about it. Anyway, not to get too preachy on the subject, but as much as I love me some Mopar, they're just damn expensive. Sam's saying he'd buy a 4-door Ram Charger. That would be sweet. Cody's saying you could always put a 5.7 in the Journey. Say, forget the Journey. My Knuckles say, what up, B? I just joined. Did you buy a Fox body? If so, what are the plans for it? Are you still working on the truck as well? So this is my original Fox body Mustang. I guess you can say I did buy it. I bought it about 20 years ago. But no, it's been sitting for a long time, and I basically started cleaning it up, was driving it today, and gonna start bringing some Fox body content to the channel. So right now it's just trying to clean up the paint. I'm kind of learning how to do some like paint correction type stuff. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's a lot of fun though. I'm actually enjoying the learning process. But I'm going to start replacing, you know, different cosmetic things. So right along there, that trim piece right there is going to be replaced. I need to replace this piece right here. The back quarter glass is actually in really good shape. Those are all old new stock. I actually installed those myself a long time ago. But anyway, no, that is my original Fox body. And asking if I'm still working on the truck. No, the work truck, I'm really not going to be doing much with it. In fact, I got a bit of a nasty gram saying I couldn't modify it in any way, shape, or form. Man. Anyway, I do have a read file on it, and I did put a tune together on that truck, so we'll see how far I can get away with any way, shape, or form, considering it's about to be out of warranty. X-Cash is asking, what are the plans for the 5.0? For now, leave her as she sits. It's a 351 F-Cam 1.7s, AFR 185s, 373s. I mean, it's a fun car, and like I say, I was out playing with it today, and it still puts a big, stupid-looking smile on my face. So can't help but love it. Oh, Sam saying he's looking for a triple black 93 Fox body. They're tough to find, man. Lots of people are looking for them right now. Oh, Kingside saying what I want to do is bring back the Excursion. It's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually talking to my wife about that. It was a couple of minutes ago, but it was one of those things where I saw one. And I said, man, it would be so cool to get my hands on one of those things. I always loved the Excursion. I don't know why they killed it. Well, they didn't sell enough, I guess. But I always liked that thing, either with a diesel. Obviously, you don't want to get the 5.4 in it, but the V10 was a great engine in those things too. So Yeah, I really did like Excursions. Oh, Cody's saying it's probably the reason why people buy the 5.0 over the Dodge is because of pricing. Part of it is that. Part of it is ergonomics, handling. It's just a different driving experience. And yeah, it could maybe fall into pricing, but here's something to consider. The Mustang offers it's again yin to the yang of the Mopar. The Mustang is a high winding, high RPM engine. The 392 is lots of torque, lots of mid range. It's literally an opposite driving experience, which means you could literally have one of each in your garage, and you could have such a different driving experience day to day. So it makes it kind of nice, man. And that's why I still love the Mustangs, mainly because they kind of always held true to what they were for so long and what they were perceived to be. Now, not so much with the Foxes; they'd always been torquey and mid-rangey, but the idea is that Mustang was always trying to do more with less, it seemed like. So I don't know, they're good cars. Oh, Ferocious saying, I always loved the Fox body back when Chevy and Ford were always going back and forth. I followed two loud Fox bodies racing one night. They both pulled into a strip club. I was hooked ever since. I love it. Well, if you were in Houston, it might have been me. 510 Kurt saying, nice Fox. I'm a Mopar guy, but those Fox cars are light and scoot. Now it's becoming a classic car people want. Yeah, it is. And they're fun, man. Like I say, moving away from just outright fast, stepping away from fast and reclaiming fun and enjoyable and, stupid looking grins and getting away with things. That's what this car's all about. It's about having fun. It's about doing dumb stuff. It's about getting away with doing dumb stuff because you're really not speeding when you're doing dumb stuff in one of these cars. They're a lot of fun. And again, this is literally the car that I learned, that taught me a lot of the things that I know now. So, it's cool to, get her back, get her rolling, have the, start making some new memories with it. Because, like I say, this car and I go way back, and there's a lot of memories in this car. So, done a lot of dumb stuff with it. Let's see. Oh, Cody's saying if Ford and Dodge came together to build a muscle car, I don't think the world would be ready for that. No, the world would absolutely, their mind would melt. X-Cash saying his friend just traded a clean 5.0 in cash on top for Grand National. Crazy how these cars have gone up in value so quick. Yeah, it is. Grand Nationals are hard to come by too, to say the least. Ferocious is asking, what all do you have left to do to make it perfect? Well, perfection, the problem with perfection is that perfection is imperfect in and of itself. There's nothing interesting about perfection. You're perfect and there's no scars. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. It's been a long day. Anyway, what I was saying is the hood. Why am I pointing at it? The hood has got to get either wet sanded or it needs to be reshot. The paint's in really rough shape on the hood. The trim, like the trim right along the top of the door's got to get replaced. The trim that goes along just the upper portion where the door closes right there, that section of it, that's got to get replaced too. I'm going to keep working on getting that paint looking a little bit better, but I don't know. I really like the car a lot. And like I say, it's been a part of my life in one way, shape, or form for a long time. So, but one thing I've got to do is get Tweaker, CalCon CalEdit to call me back and walk me through how to install CalCon and CalEdit on a Windows 10 because their directions aren't working for me. Keeps on saying, I would get a Mustang, but I'm 6'5" and over 275 pounds. I just feel cramped in that car. I bet, man. Yeah, I'd stick with the Mopars for sure. Cody's saying New Edge Mustangs are an underrated car for sure. New Edge Mustang, when it comes to the sound of a car, you know, just the pitch, the sound of it, it is extremely hard to argue that there's anything that sounds better than a 4.6 with a set of Flowmasters or Ravens or something like that. And just in terms of the pitch, the sound, that car always did it for me, man. I love the way those cars sound. But, well, guys, it is getting late. I have got to hit the sack. I wake up early in the morning. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Be on the lookout for more stuff coming from Foxy. And who knows what the plans will be moving forward, but I guarantee you it'll be a lot of fun because it's a Fox body. How could it not be fun? At any rate, y'all have yourselves a fantastic week. We will catch up with you about halfway through. And that is a wrap for this evening, guys. God bless.